Hello guys and welcome to the week number 5 of our course of reading and composition. Hope everything is going well on your side and wishing you my best, sending you my best energies on this quarantine period. Hopefully you have been able to deal with all your different assignments and your family life and your academic compromises. I know you're great, so I'm pretty sure that you have been able to do so. Well, as usual, I would like to start this class by sharing with you this time a fragment of a tale by Gustavo Adolfo Becker. Well, this time, this particular reading is going to have some repercussions, or let's say connections to our assignments of this week. So I will recommend that you pay close attention, especially this time. Okay? Ella era hermosa, hermosa con esa hermosura que inspira el vértigo, hermosa con esa hermosura que no se parece en nada a la que soñamos en Los Ángeles y que, sin embargo, es sobrenatural. Hermosura diabólica que tal vez presta al demonio a algunos seres para hacerlos sus instrumentos en la tierra. Él la amaba con ese amor que no conoce freno ni límites. La amaba con ese amor en que se busca un goce y solo se encuentran martirios. Amor que se asemeja a la felicidad y que, no obstante, parece infundir el cielo para la expiación de una culpa. Ella era caprichosa y extravagante como todas las mujeres del mundo. Él, supersticioso y valiente, como todos los hombres de su época. Very well, as I mentioned, this is just a fragment. The original tale has about 10 pages. This is only the beginning, right? And as I mentioned before, this has a lot to do with what we're going to do this week. Okay? Well, guys, you might remember that in the first lesson about the descriptive paragraphs, we covered, like the first week that we covered that, we spent some time talking about theory, and then the next week we dedicated ourselves to practice, a lot of practice, now physical and then emotional. Well, with the narrative ones, more or less we're going to do the same. Like, we dedicated some time in order to discuss the theory and the components of narratives. So this week, this video is going to be really short because most of the work will be carried out by you. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of practice this week, and the idea is that more or less this is going to be like the mechanics, right? Like, every time we cover a topic, we're going to have a more or less extensive introduction, and later on the next week or in the next lesson, we are going to have enough time for you to practice. Remember, this is a workshop course, so the most important part, let's say, it's on your hands. It's your responsibility. Okay, so let's go straight down to business. You just listen to the text that I shared with you some moments ago. So the assignment number 1 is going to be this. Also individually, we're going to do this individually. You are going to complete the rest of the story. Okay? You are going to complete the rest of the story. The idea is that you write a minimum of 2 paragraphs. Okay? You are going to imagine whatever happened to these two guys, the guy and the girl. Whatever idea that come to your mind that may have happened to them, well, you're going to have the opportunity to create that. Okay, so remember that we are managing paragraphs of 5 sentences with introductory, with supporting sentences, and with conclusions. So you are going to continue this story. You don't need to write again the first part. You're just going to continue since the last part that I mentioned, and you're going to finish the story. Like, it must be like by the end of the second paragraph, the story must be complete. It must be done. Also, I am going to ask you to please include some descriptive elements into your paragraphs. Okay, so remember that I mentioned that we were going to start like combining different elements. Well, this is what we're going to do, right? We in some previous lesson we started like combining description that was physical with emotional, and that was a first attempt. So here is going to be like the first time in which we are going to combine descriptive elements and narrative elements. Okay, so the most important, as I mentioned over here, is like to tell the story. So those two paragraphs must be mostly let's say narrative, but nevertheless you are going to include some descriptive elements, right? Remember that these descriptions may correspond to the people, to places. If you want to include animals in the story, well, that's fine. And those feats must be or can be physical and as well emotional, of personality, moods, etc. Okay, so that will be the first part. When you have that, when you have already like finished, this is a creative writing assignment. What you are going to do is that you are going to determine and list what are the elements of this narration. Okay, so you are going to identify the temporality, you are going to identify the theme unity, you are going to identify everything else, right? Like the causality, everything, all the other components that are essential, and you already know about that. You already did also some practice with it, so you're going to do that. Okay, so to summarize and make it like really clear, assignment number 1 is going to be that one, completing the story, like creating an alternative version. You are going to be responsible for that. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, any crazy story that you can imagine, well, just go ahead and do it. You're free to do it. So complete that using 2 narrative paragraphs with some descriptive elements that can be physical or that can be emotional. Okay, and then after you're finished, you are going to write over there discrimination of the components of the narrative sequence. Okay, remember, it is nothing too long. You can just write the component, and in front of each component you're going to just complete a short description of each one of the items that correspond to the different elements or components in the narrative sequence. Okay, so that will be our first assignment, that is divided into parts. Okay, hopefully that is clear. Now we're going to the second assignment. Okay, we're going to have a second assignment over here that is going to be mostly concentrated on recognition, identification, and a reading exercise. Okay, so attached to the assignment number 1, you are going to find 2 files. Okay, the first one of them is called Reading Race. So I'm going to wait for you. I will appreciate it if you need to pause this video in order to download that. Well, go ahead, download it and open the first file. Okay, in the first file we're going to see some different narrative texts. Okay, so if you walk with me through the file, you will find that in the page number 1 there is some sort of a comic book. Well, let's say that it has the structure, like some panels and some rectangles in which we have some text, and there we have a story. Okay, so that will be one story. Yes, story number 1. Then if you go to the file number 2, well, sorry, in the same file, in the page number 2, you will find a story that is called Episode of the Enemy by Jorge Luis Borges. Okay, so that will be a second story that we have over there. Then if we go to the page number 3, you will see several mini tales or mini fictions. Okay, the first one that is called Life, the other one is called Home, the other one is Division of Labor, Growling, Pity. Okay, all of them are independent stories, really short. Yes, like they are self-conclusive. You can just read one of them and that will be the beginning and the end. But those are narrative texts. Okay, so that would be story number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, seven stories over here. Then we have another one over here that is the one that starts with Imagine Yourself. Okay, so that is another story. And those are all the stories in this file. Okay, now additional to that, there is another file in which you are going to find an additional story. Okay, so all of them are short stories, tales, mostly, or mini fictions. So simply those are different examples of narrative text. The only thing that you have to do for now is read them. You can read them in whatever order you want, in that order, or you can read the other file first, so well, etc. Okay, so after you have read all those stories, I am going to ask you to go to the other file, okay, that is called Reading Race Questions. Remember, the first thing that you have to do for this assignment number 2 is just read that, make sure that you understand. If you're required to look in the dictionary, to look for some words, whatever. Do it, okay? But the important thing is that you are able to understand whatever that says in there and that you have the general idea of the story, okay? Now, this one has a very specific instruction. Now it says over here, answer the following questions. Please explain all questions that require so, using no more than 3 sentences. Okay, so let's say that you will realize that there are some questions in which it's possible or it's necessary, to, let's say, to answer or give some explanation, or there is like an open question, so you're required to write a little bit more. But in those cases, please, you're going to write no more than 3 sentences. That's all, okay? Now, for the other questions, mentioning the answer is enough. No explanation is required, okay? So, some questions require some explanation, and some other questions are answered only by saying 1 word or 2 words, something like that. So, for example, if the question is, how many legs does a dog have? The answer is 4, and that's it. Not necessary to say anything else, right? So those are the ones. Now you will see that here there is a list of questions from 1 to 17, right? There are 17 questions, but these questions have a particularity, right? Something particular about it. And let's take a look at the number 1, for example. It says, who won the competition and why? Briefly explain. The question says that you have to explain briefly, so in those cases, well, please use more or less 3 sentences to answer. Now, what is the catch? What is the trick over here? You don't know like which reading or which text, which story is this question referring to. Is this for the number 1, for the number 2, for the number 3, for the 7, for the 8? You don't know, right? So you would require to read all of them in order to answer this question, okay? And here we go, no? Like all of them are the same. For example, we have the second one. Why was the guy unable to perform the billiard trick? Again, you don't know if this question belongs to the first, to the second, no idea, okay? So for that reason, you're required to read all of them. So this is a, let's say, moderately long reading activity, and it's going to demand that you pay close attention. Sometimes if your memory is not very good, probably you would require to take some notes or something like that, but that will be it. Okay, so that is what is going to be the second one, and as you can see, it's like a double practice in this case, is because it's going to be reading comprehension, a lot of reading comprehension. We're going to read a lot, and different styles and different, let's say, types of stories and genres and themes. But mostly it's going to be also recognizing some features of narrative text, because as I mentioned before, all of them are narrative, and those are the types of paragraphs that we are studying. Okay, so as you can see, the video is really short. It was only for explaining these activities, but the activities themselves demand that you have, or that you dedicate some time to it. You're capable of doing it. Like you're already in touch with everything you need to answer these questions and to practice with these activities, because you already have all the theory and components of the descriptive paragraphs, and as well you also have all the theory and components, and even like a previous practice of the narrative text. Okay, so that's it for the week. I know the video is really short, but the work that awaits for you is long enough. So I wish you well. Encourage you to start working with this right away. It's not necessarily a short task, so start as soon as possible. Next week, and that's something that I would like to mention as well, we will be doing certain activities, additional activities with your book, with the book that you're reading. And also I want to tell you that part of the exercise of part of the responsibility of this course is giving you some preparation for the IELTS exam, right? I know that you are supposed to take the IELTS test I think it's on 5th semester. So we are going to be practicing certain things, specifically in reading and writing, right? Like the other parts of the exam, or sections of the exam, are mostly responsibility of other courses and other teachers. But normally I really like to help you with that. So now and then we are going to have some practice about IELTS reading and writing. For that, I would require of your collaboration. Normally I do it in the classroom under simulation conditions, in which you cannot talk to anybody, in which you cannot use cell phones or things like that. Now you're in your house, and of course you could use that, but I'm going to ask you to simulate this as much as possible. Okay, anyway, that will be the next week. I'm just telling you because it's important that you know in advance that that is part of the things that we use in order to practice a little bit this part of the standardized exam, which is quite important, because I know it depends. They say from these exams depends different things that you could do in the future in the career itself, but also in probably when you have to take the genuine exam that is a real necessity for being able to get the scholarships, travel abroad, study in international universities, even getting well-paid jobs. So take this seriously. Hopefully, if you can obtain a good result on this exam, it's very likely that you will be able to have some good opportunities. So thank you very much. Wish you luck for everything that you're going to do. Remember that it's individual. I don't remember if I mentioned that. As usual, we're going to do this individually. And see you soon. Thank you very much, guys. Hugs. Bye bye.